So this is Rolls Royce, the parent brand, and I've talked a little bit already about our future and the innovation trends that are driving us forward as a global power company. Electrification, that fusion of mechanical and electrical technologies, particularly in the e-aircraft space. Digitalization, the bringing together of the physical realities of the world with the kind of cutting-edge digital technologies that R² Data Labs and R² Factory specialize in. And then meeting this growing demand for cleaner, safer, and more competitive power across the world. And that's why our group vision, as Rolls-Royce, is pioneering the power that matters. We focus on those kinds of cutting-edge technologies that can deliver the cleanest, safest, and most competitive solutions to meet the planet's vital power needs. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how you go about doing that when you're trying to move an organization like Rolls-Royce, which has been around for 130 plus years, into a 21st century paradigm, into a space where the pace of innovation is increasing radically, where there are many new novel ideas coming from the startup community that want to present completely new business models or new ways of going about some of these questions. How do you actually thrive as a traditional, if you like, sort of heavy-duty engineering and manufacturing organization in that world? And this really was the question that R² Data Labs was originally formed to help Rolls-Royce to solve when we started back in 2017. So the key questions, I guess, in this pivot or perish paradigm is the enterprise of the previous century still fit for purpose in this century? What does it take to be a 21st century enterprise? How do you change yourself in order to be able to meet that challenge of being fit for purpose? And how do today's leaders transform those traditional business models and the organizational structures that underpin them in order to deliver operations that can thrive today and in the future? But this is essentially the iterative, agile development cycle. So I spend a lot of time inside large industrial organizations talking to them about agile. And either they know what it is and are scared, or they don't know what it is and sometimes still scared, or in some rare examples, they know what it is and they're actually already using it effectively. But it's still quite unusual in traditional manufacturing, engineering, industrial businesses to find organizations who really embrace the notion of learning through iteration. Many of those traditional organizations are still very focused on an approach to innovation which seeks to remove as much risk as possible before you start. And Agile is not like that. Agile is it's a bit like an onion. So in Agile, you start in the middle of the onion and you just do a little thing that learns a little thing. And once you've got that right, you then go back and you iterate again and you do a slightly bigger thing and you learn a little bit more. And then you iterate again and you do a slightly bigger, so it's like building the skin, the shell of an onion out from the center. Traditional waterfall projects are a bit like slicing the onion right down the middle, right? As in, you can see all of the risk, but you're going to cry a lot. And our vision was about making data think. And the approach that we took to that was by collecting data streams from both inside Rolls-Royce and indeed contextual data from the outside world, putting it through a collaborative ecosystem of partners sourced from the outside world, from academia, from startups, from strategic technology partners, people who had similar experiences to us, people who had different experiences to us, people who could teach us things, people who we could teach things. And alongside that collaborative ecosystem, having in the core of R² Data Labs a kernel of advanced data analytics, AI, and machine learning capability that was homegrown, that we had built ourselves. And by combining those two strands together, the external innovation community and the small kernel of internal capability, we could really push forward the boundaries of data innovation in order to develop new services for Rolls Royce to use with its customers, and to deliver new actionable information to help Rolls Royce transform itself. The reality is there are some really critical challenges in the context of applying artificial intelligence to industrial problems. And the first is a combination of these top two boxes on the left-hand side here. Industrial data is highly imperfect. Much of it's been collected over centuries. You know, Rolls-Royce is a 130-year-old company plus. Most of its data is not in a state fit for training ML models. And indeed, much of its data is also highly sparse. And it's sparse for a good reason. Failure data in industrial data sets is sparse because industrial companies are actually quite good at managing safety processes. So, you know, things don't fall out of the sky. Nuclear power stations don't blow up very often. These are all very good things that we are all grateful for, but it means if you're trying to train an ML on predicting a failure incident, the features in the data set are simply not present to be able to do so effectively. So there's a big data sparsity issue for AI solutions in industrial use cases. So this is the answer that we came up with inside Rolls-Royce and that we've now taken forward into our work in the R-squared factory. And what this really says is there are very limited places for industrial applications of AI where it's possible to develop competitive differentiation. So over on the left-hand side of this chart, you have all of the things that have to come from collaboration with an open ecosystem. Because frankly, it's either not affordable to build it yourself, or there's so little competitive advantage that comes from building it yourself, it's not the right place to be prioritizing your investment. So most algorithms and source code come from participation with the open technology ecosystem or through partnerships with academic institutions. Most new use cases actually come from the startup community. If you don't invest the time and the effort in creating AI-capable operations, you can have the cleverest data scientists with the best algorithms and indeed even the best organized training data in the world, and arguably all you really should be doing is putting them in an ivory tower with a pile of £50 notes and a box of matches. Because it doesn't matter how much good work they do, it won't get adopted in your organization, and as a result, it won't actually output value generation. So I've talked about where R-squared Data Labs sat in terms of its support for Rolls-Royce in building out these technology innovation ecosystems and collaborations. And now I just want to spend a little bit of time talking about where the R-squared factory sits. The R-squared factory has spun out of inside of R-squared Data Labs. It's a community of about 50. And what we've done is taken the learnings of the last 4 or 5 years, which, by the way, have delivered more than, well, about $500 million worth of value generation to Rolls-Royce. And we're now applying that learning not only to Rolls-Royce as a client, but also to other industrial companies like Rolls-Royce. So organizations that are asset intensive, that are mission critical, that are dominated by physical processes, and for the most part that are, more than 50 years old.